Hello, everyone. Just bear with me while I just invite. I haven't done one of these in ages, so I'm a little bit out of practice, but we're on it now. And Edwina should be joining me shortly. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. Oh, hang on. You have joined, so I just need to pop her on. Oh, hang on. Like I said, just bear with me now while I pop her in. Let's see. Like I said, haven't done these in ages. Hope everyone is doing good and had a lovely Christmas and all that. Um, like I said, I haven't been on over Christmas because I was just kind of taking it easy and spending time with the family. And I mean, like I said, as a business owner, you're never off duty. You're always doing something, which I have been. But just like I said, I tend to prioritize my time and I prioritize what needs to get done and chatting on Instagram and stuff like that. Just like I said, I didn't have a whole lot to say, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time talking shite, basically. Now go live. Hold on. Edwina should be coming on. So as you know, Edwina is or was a nurse. And she is turned to being a healer, all things energy healing, bioenergy, spirituality, all that. So I am dying to have a yap with her and find out what brought her from nursing to healing and coaching. And I know that she is a mom of, I'm pretty sure she's a mom of a teenager or an older chap and a younger. So I'm dying to hear it. Like I said, I'm just, oh, here, hang on.
I think I can see myself, but not you, Antoinette.
Okay, so let's see how we do this then. And I can see myself, but not you.
Okay,
So,
amazing.
okay, hang on now.
I've just gotten a little notification there that says the invitation has expired, so I don't know.
Okay, well, hang on. At least I can hear you.
Yeah, maybe it's working. I wonder if anyone that's here on the call could give us a thumbs up. Are they seeing us? Is it
Yeah,
just
who
between
can?
us?
Oh,
You can see us both. Fantastic.
thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay, great. I'm going to pretend I'm just going to look up at the camera and not just be talking to myself.
Perfect.
So can you, and you can see me?
I can't see you. I can just see me, but it's
Okay,
working
right.
for everybody else.
Listen, it's grand. Not to worry. Let's not waste any more time and get stuck in. Thank you so much for coming on this evening.
Thank you for
I'm
having
dying to
me.
hear all about your journey that brought you from nursing to where you are now, and I suppose what the journey was and what was the catalyst for that change you made, and I suppose how has that impacted you. So look, lash away, tell us about yourself now and a bit kind of just a bit of backstory about yourself and how you went from nursing to where you are now.
Perfect. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's a privilege to have been asked and delighted to be here. And as I had said to you, anywhere I'm supporting another woman or another person is just fantastic to be able to do that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm Edwina, a mother of two, and yes, I just turned a mother to an adult the 1st of January. My
Wow.
boy turned 18, and I have a little girl who's 4. And
Wow.
from County Limerick here in Ireland, and fiance to Damien. And my background is in nursing,
Yeah.
and would have worked in the medical world for. I calculated it lately, and it's a scary. Like I'm 20 years. So I would have started out as a healthcare assistant, and I actually went back to college later on as a mature student in my late 20s and qualified, and but always found it very difficult. Actually, even as a healthcare assistant, it was a career that I had found difficult in many ways, and always wanted to be doing more for the people I was looking after. So went and did my nursing, qualified in 2016, and by 2018 I was a clinical nurse manager over in a large company, but covering as the sole clinical lead a huge catchment area. To anyone that is familiar with Ireland, Limerick, Clare, North Tipperary, and Cork, and I was the sole clinical lead. There was no other nurse, and
Wow.
I burnt out, yeah, pretty bad in 2021 for my second time in my nursing career. And at that point, I suppose we had bought the house. It's good to mention that we'd bought the house in 2019, and so we had a 2-year-old at that stage, but there was no quality of life, and that was starting to dribble down into the family, because
Right.
anyone here that's a mom, they know if we're off, the family is
Yeah.
off. Everyone's off. Mom keeps it all going,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's okay too. And I'm sure, if one of our families are off, like if our husbands or our partners are off, it puts us off as well. But
Yeah.
that's where it was gone to, and it had gotten to the point where, we had bought this house that we bought was my dream house. It's a house. It's an old house, but it's a house I always saw and admired, and said I'll buy that house someday. And I did, and I was in the garden one day, and I thought, if I knew it was going to be this hard, I would not have effing done it.
Right.
Because I was now, in a mortgage, but in a career
Right.
that trapped me. I had to be in this
Yeah.
career
Yeah.
so I could
Gorgeous.
pay this mortgage, and it was
Now, if
all the
anyone is
due.
yeah.
Um, And I thought there has to be a way out.
Yeah.
And one day the burnout, it had gone so severe that I said, I down tools, and I don't know. It was definitely a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Downing tools was not an easy option. It was incredibly difficult. And for me at the time, I was what, 30 something, in my 30s, and felt like I had just failed for the last 30 something years,
Right.
and had went down an avenue, that a career path that was never for me, and I was angry I didn't listen to my gut instincts before now, and had to come to this, etc. So it was a huge scary decision, but I made it and I did it.
Yeah.
And
Can I ask you, sorry, Edwina, what did the burnout look like for you? Because there's so much talk around burnout, and
yeah,
I suppose it looks different for other people, but sometimes people don't actually realize that they're burnt out, or that they're living in burnout, and they kind of go like, oh, I just need to take a few days off and make a little bit of time off, and it's like a band-aid on a bullet wound almost. So can you just talk, if you don't mind, just kind of what that
no,
looks like
yeah,
for you?
absolutely. Yeah, and it could look different for different people, what burnout looks like to them. But for me, it was gone to the point of chronic anxiety. So I was constantly in fight or flight. I might not have known that at the time,
Yeah.
but I was never down in the sympathetic. I was constantly in high, very high, high, high energy, and feeling that in my body every day. So there was constant palpitations, constant flutters in my chest. Um, and it had gotten to the point where I was ringing the doctor regularly, during the day, like my work day. I would be gone out the back thinking I'm having a heart
Oh
attack,
God.
and the doctor would know by me, I think it's
Yeah.
another panic attack, Edwina. And so that had started to happen. High blood pressure started to happen. So now, typically there isn't symptoms with high blood pressure, but that's
Yeah.
not a written rule. For me, I would have flushed face and feel pringles and tingles on my face. And
Right.
when I'd get my blood pressure checked, it was through the roof. And it had gotten to the point then where I wasn't functioning. So now, it was a lot of mental stuff for me. And then it carried on down to my body. So I flatlined. I was in bed. I wasn't able to function. I couldn't work, so I went off work initially on sick leave,
Yeah.
due to stress, um, and juggling it all. So, I mean, nursing is an incredibly difficult career. Then, not to mind where I had branched into, and then the lack of support, etc. But then I was a mom. I was working from home. I was a clinical nurse manager. There was COVID. I had a small baby under my feet. So, and I had no childcare because there's COVID. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
elements to it. But I'd still feel that it was something that was supposed to happen, so that I would would end up in my own path, in where I was meant to be. And I might lead into that.
Yeah.
So I suppose I very soon after that, somebody mentioned to me a life coach, and I had never heard of a life coach. I never knew what that was, but it was written in the title, a life coach, and I knew I needed that right now. And I had yeah, so got onto her, and the minute I closed the old doors, so the old doors to me was handed in the notice, made it
Yeah.
legit. I'm not doing this anymore. All the new doors started to open, and within a short space of time, an email came in my inbox, and it was from the Bioenergy Academy of Dublin. It was a promotion email. They were starting a diploma in bioenergy, and for me, it was like a no-brainer, the
Yeah.
avenue I went, because I went to all of my um, anytime I was unwell or my kids, we would go to the alternative therapist
Right.
first. Now, unless obviously there was an infection or something like that, but
Yeah.
any stress stuff or any body stuff going on, digestive issues, you name it, all of that, I was always gone off to my alternative therapist, my
Okay.
complementary therapist. So when bioenergy came up, and I was always intrigued by the energy work and all of that. And so I trained as a bioenergy therapist, and straight away went, started my social media page and allowed everyone to follow me on that journey. And, I
Wow.
renovated the garage here. Yeah. And I started from this room. So I work, when I'm online, I work from in the house. The internet's better. And this was the therapy room. It's the spare room now. It's now my office, but I now have the therapy room outside. So, and since
Okay.
then, I also trained in Dawson Corrective Sounds. So, Dawson Corrective Sound practitioner. And as a coach, as a spiritual coach. And of course,
Brilliant.
then this whole new world opened up. And I would never look back. It's been an incredible journey.
Wow.
But not easy. And anyone here that, even if they are thinking about entrepreneurship, or thinking about stepping out, it's not like easy. It's not
Yeah.
easy for me. It's not easy for you, Antoinette.
Yeah.
But because so much is changing, so much is changing. You're unlearning so much as well, and stepping into who you truly are.
Yeah.
But it's such a rewarding journey at the same time, and especially if you're in service of others, which is what I started out doing. I started working in a nursing home when I was 16, and here I am. I'm 38 now. I've never ever done anything else, only help people.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's only now, in the last 3 years, that I feel I'm actually helping people.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I actually think
yeah,
that's very similar. A lot of people from those kind of backgrounds, like I'm early years, but would have worked in hospitals. My mum was a nurse, my dad was an ambulance. Do you know, like, so
yeah,
that care and profession. But I would work with a lot of teachers who feel that they kind of are going against themselves. They have this grow to help people, and they feel almost like stifled in their role, whether it be nursing or teaching, or So it seems as a common trend around people in the wellness industry are coming from those caring professions.
yeah. Yeah, and it's not surprising, because I think, and it's not a written rule. It's not a
No.
written rule, I suppose. But when you have that nature in you, it might be
Yeah.
what you'll end up gravitating towards. But again, it's not a written rule. I
No.
mean, the same with, if when I started nursing at the time, there was people coming in that had been like electricians, and now they were going to nursing. So, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but and it's a beautiful, like, in comparison, for me personally, in my experience, it's a beautiful world to be in now.
Yeah.
You meet so many like-minded, really heart-centered people. In the career that I was in, at least in my personal experience, because I can't talk for everyone, it was a very hierarchical, judgmental place to be. But there's none of that. And it took me a while to be open to accepting that as well. It's like, when you're surrounded by like-minded, really heart-centered people, you start to wonder, am I worthy of this? That
Yeah.
part comes in.
That imposter
And
syndrome. Do I belong here with these people? Am I got?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, you get over that too. But yeah, it's phenomenal. So definitely, went from a place, and I had a hard life. Like, I had a lot of childhood trauma. Then there was a
Yeah.
lot of deaths in the family as well. Started in 2013, and everyone, like, my dad passed away, my brother passed away within 4 months of each other.
Oh my goodness.
And somebody passed away in our family nearly every year after that. So all my dad's brothers have passed since then, and his a sister, and even a nephew, my dad's nephew, so a cousin of mine has even passed, and a very close family friend, and it's been like grief after year after year
Wow.
after year. Um, so, but the last 3 years, for me, is like the trauma has stopped as well,
Yeah.
so there's been huge, huge transition. Um, now we sadly
And
lost Damien's mom this year, to cancer, which she was a really good age, thankfully. She was in her 80s, but still. But yeah, so
yeah, it's hard. The loss is hard.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think when you're in jobs, like when you're in roles where, like nursing or any of those kind of caring roles, you have to give a bit of yourself. Like so, and like likewise, if I'm in early years, like you have to give a bit of yourself every day. You have to come in and give. And if you're coming from that place of like where you're managing trauma and grief and all that, you don't have anything left then. So you've given all this energy to just kind of getting up in the morning and being okay. And then you're going into your job and you're having to give that bit more yourself. So then by the end of the day, there's nothing left. Would you have felt that?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Nothing left. Or, sometimes you can end up in that. So for me, it was in that high energy. It was like in that fight or flight. So I would be like, overextending in how I gave, and needing to do more, because I needed so much validation that I was,
Yeah.
enough, and that I was doing enough, because no matter where I went, no matter how much of my heart I gave, I wasn't accepted, fully. I was never seen for what I was doing, but that was never going to come from outside of me, and that's another huge lesson I've learned on this journey, is never looking outside of us, yourself, for the validation that you are enough. I
Yeah.
didn't know that then, but for me, yeah, it was high. I would be on a high. And, downtime then on a day off, there might have been very little left over, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
a PJ day, like too many PJ days on your day off. But yeah, this journey has taught me so much about all of that as well. Um, we get to choose our life. We literally get to choose. I know it can feel like you're boxed in. Um, I felt boxed in because we had just bought the house that I always wanted. I had the job to pay for it, and it
Yeah.
felt like a trap. And I was so young, and I said, really, for until I'm in my 60s, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I had to make a decision. And I know there is so many other women,
Yeah.
even now,
Oh, yeah.
listening to this, and so many other women in the same situation. But, you know, we make a choice, and none of them are easy. But the one that I chose is one I'd never look back on.
Yeah.
It's growth and healing ever since then, and whole new beliefs and whole new understanding about me, about my world, and what I'm about and what everybody else is about.
Wow. I think that's such an important point to make. And I think it's so like refreshingly honest to hear you say that, because I think there are so many mums who are in that position of like, left school, went to college, got married, got the house, got the mortgage, got the job, and then suddenly going, this isn't what I signed up for, or this isn't the dream I was sold my whole life. And suddenly there's that feeling of being trapped, going like, financially, I am stuck here. This is my life. So, like, there is no choice. And I think like it's kind of like you lose a little bit of yourself when you have that feeling of going like, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, I don't have choices. And you can't see the choices because you're so in that space of just been I suppose like miserable, and then there's the guilt of feeling like how could I feel like this, and I have everything and people don't have, and I'm so fortunate, and how, what's wrong with me that I'm not happy. So there's so many inner dialogues that happen, but I think it's so refreshing to hear you say that you had this dream house and you had the job to pay for it, and you're looking around going, this isn't what I want, this isn't how I want to live my life, as you say, another 70 years of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it is a really difficult place to be in.
Yeah,
And it's so funny, I haven't even thought about it in a while. And even just thinking about this, like even us talking about it now, it's stirring up like God, like where I was at. And I understand how difficult it is. To anyone that's like listening or has joined this call even tonight to get some inspiration or feel resonates with this, I say to you, just do it. And like,
yeah,
nobody has to quit. Like I quit my job, but I'm that's just my personality. That's me. I'm like, I'm in or I'm out. I can't be
yeah,
half in,
yeah,
half out. Um, but whatever it is for you, so it might not even be a job, it might be the relationship you're
yeah,
trapped in, it might be, whatever it is that you feel trapped in, you've got the ultimate control over your life and over your world. And the universe is on your side, believe it or not. It's you, like it's us that puts ourselves into the predicament that we're in, believe it or not. And that can be hard to swallow if you're not used to
mm,
personal development work and really expanding the mind and having a real understanding of how, the laws of the universe and everything works. It might be a difficult thing. So how would I do this to myself? I would never do this to myself. But it's when you grow, learn, and expand, you see, oh, I did do that. And you also will see, I had a choice. I have a choice to change the narrative, change what it is that's happening, and you can change it no matter when, no matter what time of your life, what age you are. It doesn't matter. You can make a decision and take the tiny baby steps from there. They don't have to be dramatic, but you do have
yeah,
the ultimate control over your world.
yeah. I just think that's so. And it can be kind of difficult to swallow, but I think when you kind of take a step back and not make it mean something about you, to just go like,
Exactly.
yeah, this doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. This doesn't mean I've made bad decisions. It doesn't mean I'm a result of life events. But it doesn't mean I'm
100%.
weak or I'm a failure. It just means that right now I'm not where I want to be. So looking forward as opposed to looking back
Yeah.
and going, right, how do I get to where I need to be? And you mentioned there, and I think it's such an important thing to say, is like how,
Mhm.
we do know, we really are the backbone of the family. And when moms are down or low, or the energy is low, or the mood is low, or maybe the tolerance level is low, the ripple effect throughout the family. And oftentimes I heard a great, it was somebody comparing it to, the way they say on an airplane for the parents put their mask on first. And it's like I look at that as like around that self-care. It's like we have to look after ourselves first. It's not selfish. It's actually selfless, because when we're on 100%, everything else in the house, in the home, works better. Things flow better when mom's on her game. Whereas if you're like struggling to get up out of the bed and you just don't feel it, and you're cranky and you're irritable, there's a knock-on effect on the family. So oftentimes we look at like self-care and all that as being like, oh, that's kind of a luxury. Oh, sure, I wouldn't have time for that. But actually, when you look at it, it's so important. It's like putting the oxygen mask on first.
100%. And it's a belief, we've grown up, our era, I'm in 38, and, our parents and our teachers and whoever else taught us, that, you've got to keep moving, you've got to keep going, you've got to, self-love is selfish, or, the phrases that you'd hear, you must love yourself, do you? Or these
Well
different
for you.
things.
Isn't it well for you?
Yes, and there's a huge guilt associated then with you looking after yourself and doing something for yourself. And
Yeah,
once, that, like, we're going down the self-love avenue for me, and it's a big area in what I work with my clients. But, self-acceptance and self-love is huge. Once you can accept yourself for who you are, with everything, non-judgmentally, unconditionally, you will never again need an external person or thing to validate you in any way, you know. And those days that you feel like you want to have a duvet day, a PJ day, a day that you just do not want to know anything else in the world, you get to do that. 100%. I mean, I have them scheduled in almost, you know. Wednesday night, yeah, like there's a self-care routine in my every single day of the week. Some days it's 5 minutes, other days it's an hour, you know. So it's really important. 100%. It's
Yeah.
huge. Um, um, and it is exactly like putting on your mask first, because how can you continue keep showing up if you're not minding yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, I actually have a little thing I say to the kids, you know, sometimes when you're like at the end of the day and you're cranky or something might happen, and then I have to go back afterwards and kind of say, look, I'm sorry for losing my temper. And I kind of said, like, I said to them before, I said, you know, mommy in the morning has a tolerance bucket and it's full when she wakes up in the morning after having a good sleep. And throughout the day, she has to give away a little bit of that. So if the traffic is bad, or if we're late for school, or if something happens in work, or blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, when I get to the end of the day, I said, sometimes what happens, and they were like, there's nothing left in the bucket. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So mommy needs to fill the bucket up during the day. So sometimes she might go for a walk, or sometimes she might lock the door so they don't follow her into the bathroom, or sometimes
Yeah.
she might just go in and lie down in bed and just lie down on the bed for 5 minutes
Yeah.
in the dark. And I was like, that's me. That's me filling up my tolerance bucket so that I'm better able to manage things here. And it kind of helps them understand that, like, sometimes for one, I'm human. For two, it's okay to lose your temper. And I'm trying to show them that if they feel that they're flustered, that you
Yeah.
can just take yourself away for 5 minutes and fill the bucket.
Totally. And it's really
Yeah,
good to normalize it to children.
yeah,
I do the exact same. Like, I've more awareness now with my 4-year-old than I had with my 18-year-old. You know, he's 18 years ago. I wasn't who I am today.
yeah,
None of us are. We're growing and learning all the time. But, you know, normalizing it, you know, emotions to children, you know, is really important so that they're allowed to have their emotions when they get older. You know, anyone in my era and beyond, you know, older than me, again, will know that, you know, we had to hide our emotions. They weren't accepted. You
yeah,
couldn't, you know, for a lot of us at least.
yeah.
Some of us might have been lucky and that wasn't their experience. But again, there's never any judgment to our
No,
parents or anyone that cared for us, because that's all they knew.
yeah,
That's how they were brought up. But there is huge awareness. There's massive awareness now across the board. But just in relation to filling the bucket, what comes for me there then as well is always be like for us to have an awareness of, if the bucket is filling up every single day to that point, that I wonder so the bucket when we're starting probably isn't empty. It's probably half full with
yeah,
old stuff. So it's got only small space in it. So it's getting you through 10, 11 hours, maybe less, and then it fills up really quick. So just
yeah,
to look at what's
yeah,
underneath that, and like put a pinhole at the bottom of the bucket and let it out from the bottom, and see
yeah,
how, you know, you'll notice then
yeah,
that it's not overflowing so quick. And if the bucket is ever overflowing, it's usually because it has accumulated, and it's because we have human and all, like we're all human. I do this work. I do it in my healing and in my mentoring with my clients. But there's sometimes even for me, because I'm still also human, that it has went by the wayside for whatever reason. Life gets busier, or something happens to one of
yeah.
the kids. My little girl is chickenpox at the moment.
Oh,
And then you'll notice your own self-care ritual has gone down, or your meditation, your healing work, whatever self-work that you're doing. And then you notice the needle going up in the thermostat, you know, and
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
I never did my self-care work
yeah.
for the last 3 or 4 days, 5 a week. And you go, okay, like literally writing 10 gratitudes or a 3 minute breathing
Huge.
technique will bring the body back to balance. So it's just important for anyone as well that's listening, and they know that they're like, I love the way you described it, Antoinette, is the bucket, you know,
Yeah,
um, it overflows. If that's happening on a daily basis, that's something to look at. There's something
Yeah.
going on in the energy there. There's something, there could be a trauma or an emotion that's blocked in there, and it's staying in the bucket, and it's not coming out. So everything else is just piling on top of it.
Right, and yeah, that's great. And I love actually that you mentioned that, because we often forget what we're carrying from old wounds. We often forget that that our whole life experience, we're holding on to everything that's gone on in our lives, even though we're not even aware of it. So, as you say, sometimes we're already in that kind of high alert state. Nothing to do with anything that's
Mhm.
happening in the present, but maybe something that our subconscious is holding on to. So then
Exactly.
everything else is harder. Everything else just seems more of a struggle because we're already up there. Now tell me, like when you mention around the energy and trauma and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about like the bioenergy and how that works around healing, because a lot of it is kind of healing the old stuff, the subconscious stuff, the stuff that we're not really fully conscious of in the present.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, bioenergy is an amazing healing modality. I have, like, people like branch off into their speciality.
Yeah.
And I've niched off into trauma release predominantly.
Right.
But bioenergy is a healing modality. It's non-touch, primarily a non-touch healing modality. And it looks at all the electrical fields. So chakras, a lot of people will have heard
Yeah.
of the chakras, but some then may not have heard of the auric fields and the meridians. But I work on all the electrical fields, including the minor chakras. But then we go into the physical body as well. So it's not just the energy that can hold on to like negative emotions, shock, toxicity, trauma, energy blocks. It can be the organs as well. It can be organ systems. It can be right down into the cells of the body. So bioenergy is very, I suppose, there's a lot of anatomy and physiology to it. There's a lot of study of all the organ systems and all the functions of the body. And with bioenergy, and the same with Dawson Corrective Sounds, we go right into that. So if you come to me for bioenergy, you might be coming for, let's just say you're coming for I don't know, a pain in your hip. That can be a common among women, hip pain,
Right.
lower back pain, lower abdo issues, and it can all often be a lot to do with the sacral chakra, the sacral area, a lot to do with our being a woman, even in that area, and trauma from women up
Ah,
through the
okay.
years. Yeah, so like our ancestors would have went through a lot of trauma, and we can continue to hold that. So we do ancestral work as well, so clearing ancestral and generational trauma. Some of the trauma we're holding in our bodies and our electrical fields aren't even ours. They're not even from this life. They're from our ancestors, grandparents, great great grandparents, etc.
Right.
back along. Um, so if you come to me with a pain in your hip, we'll have our little consultation, but then I go into the body, I dowse, I use pendulum. I don't have one here in front of me now, but I use a pendulum and we test the body, and I also do some muscle testing to see what it is that's coming up for release. And that can be anything, it's vast. But whatever comes up for release, I release it. So we don't just know what's there, we also clear it. And then we will always feed back to the client at the end what came up. So I'll be able to identify, say, for example, it was a trauma, I'll be able to identify where it was, when it came in, what age they were, and maybe what caused the trauma. Or if it was ancestral, I'll be able to track it back to it was the two, great grandmother,
Yeah, where? Yeah.
generations back, etc. So it's an amazing
Wow.
modality, and I have found it fantastic for trauma. Like,
Yeah.
now, a client rarely comes to me because of trauma. They'll come because there's
Yeah.
a symptom on the surface, or there's the regular burnout, there's the hip pain, there's the palpitations, there's anxiety, there's all of these different things coming. And it'll usually go back to trauma. And 9 times out of 10, a client may not even ever have to tell me that there's trauma. Their body will
Right.
tell me, and I'll know what happened and when. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
so that's usually who
Amazing.
gravitates. Yeah, it's amazing work. It's life changing. It's life changing. I have a client actually coming on. We're going doing a live next week for her to share her story, because when I work with clients at such an intimate level, and such in like with confidence, it's hard to share stories because it's they're tender.
Yeah.
This girl's happy to come on, and I'm really looking forward to her sharing her story, because it's just life changing. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And tell me, if you were like, because as you said, if you're seeing moms all the time. So if if there was a mom listening today who's in that permanent and pensionable job, and she's feeling like she's a bit trapped and she's burnt out, and she just feels that there is no way, there's no other way, what advice would you give her?
So first of all, there's like a bucket of advice I would give her. Where would I
Okay.
start? You see, the first thing that I would start with is it's a belief. So she believes that there is no other way out, but the belief isn't true. So, and I've just with my own mentor this morning, in the word belief, in the middle of it is lie, Lie, Belief. So we have a thing, and if you've never been had any coaching or anything before, you might not have heard of limiting self beliefs.
Yeah.
But it's a limiting belief. She has been told since she was a child that you have to do this, you have to get your mortgage, you have to get the pensionable job, and now you have to pay for it, and it feels like a big trap. But it's just not the truth. That's not a true story.
Yeah.
And I would say to her first, it depends on how open you are. You could tell someone this all day, and if they're not ready to hear it, and they kind of choose to stay where they are, then it's hard to help that person. But the
Yeah.
person that genuinely wants to know if there's a way out, I would tell her to take baby steps that feel safe, especially if
Right.
she's had trauma in the past. Big steps is like can be traumatic for her
Yeah.
again, because
Yeah.
her body remembers when things weren't secure and safe in the past. So she's not going to want to go back into
Yeah.
that. No part of her being is want to go back into that. And like decisions like that can bring you back to trauma. So tiny baby steps that feel safe. And maybe that is retraining in something, doing a course in something you really like doing, in whatever that is.
Yeah.
Um, and surrounding yourself by people. So following the likes of you, Antoinette, on Instagram, or anyone like that is taking the brave steps, and just listening to them for a while. Just
Yeah.
listening and trusting and knowing that, like Antoinette, you still have your job, and you've started your own little business as well. That's the perfect way to do it. That's the
Yeah.
perfect way to do it. You've got
Yeah.
your foot out the door.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'm very fortunate that I have a part-time job in the job that I like. I love early years, and now I get to branch out and do this, and actually kind of step into this new world where it's more of a I feel more it's more of my purpose, because I've taken on my own stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I'm able to kind of impart all that. So yeah, I feel very fortunate, and I'm so grateful that I'm in that position, as you say, to be able to have my foot in both.
yeah, Yeah, you're really lucky. And yeah, and then even to anyone that doesn't have the job but wants to do
Yeah.
something and feels like, I don't know enough, I'm not trained in enough, that's all also not true. If you can draw a picture that isn't even, art, if you can draw a stick man, you can help somebody. That might help a child in creativity. We seem to have belief that we have to have all of these degrees and letters after our name and this, that, and the other thing in order to be of value in the world. That's not true either. Life experience,
Yeah.
is worth, you know,
Yeah.
it outweighs all the
It's
degrees
a
and the
it's your
masters.
superpower, I suppose, isn't it? It's your life experience is your superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. And like follow your passion, don't make something up, go what's in here, you got to connect with what's inside of you and bring that forth. I mean, I've come across like solicitors, doctors, you name it, in the line of work that I'm doing, and they've branched off into things that you would never
Yeah, just
expect.
Yeah.
but they
Wow.
were the
Yeah.
doctor because their dad and their dad and their dad was like my mom was a nurse, and they were,
Yeah.
it's incredible, So go down into your heart and see, well, what am I about? You might never, if this is all new to you, you might never have asked yourself who you are. Who am I? Who am
Yeah.
I? It's a massive question.
And I think especially when you take all the hats off, when you take like the mammy hat or the wife, the sister, the daughter, the
Take up
whatever
my
your profession,
Yeah,
when you take all the hats off and someone says, "Who are you now?"
yeah. That's a vulnerable place to be. A
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
vulnerable place to be. Like I feel
Absolutely.
even emotional now, for that person. I've been there. Like I,
Yeah.
I, I mean, I'm still discovering who I am. But I remember a few years ago asking myself, who am I? Like, and where
Yeah.
did I get lost? Where did I go?
Yeah.
Because, and
Yeah.
didn't know what I was interested in, didn't know what I liked doing, didn't know what I was good at. Um, all of these things. And it's about like curiosity, exploring who you are as a person, and never for a second doubt that you are an amazing person and that you are enough and that you have something to offer in the world. You're not here otherwise, I promise you, because um, every single one of us are here for a reason. We're all here for a mission. If you look at it on the wider of where I'm in the more like spiritual realms and everything, every one of
Yeah.
us are here because we have a mission and we have a job to do. And it's up to us whether we choose to do it in this life or not. But we're going to keep getting sent back until we do it. So you get to choose.
Wow. I'm actually, do you know what? That's because I wanted to ask you something else, but I might ask you again. I just think that's such a lovely way to end the conversation, and just that love, what you just said, just what you just said. Actually, I'm not even going to try and go over it again because it was just the lovely way you put it. That we are all here for a reason, and we all have our own um, unique, I suppose, purpose that we bring to this world, and it's up to us to choose whether we choose to use it in this world or the next. But that, yeah, actually that you've just summed that up lovely. That was a really lovely way you put that. And I think if everybody who's listening takes that one kind of few phrases there and just even takes that alone, just to know like you are amazing and you can do whatever you want to do. It's just if you choose to do it in this life or not. And it's okay if
Yeah.
you don't. That's okay too. Like there's no
Yeah.
judgment on
I,
somebody
I
who
would, yeah,
chooses to stay.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
okay. That's grand. Like
yeah,
you do you, and once
yeah,
you're okay and you're living that life and you're happy, then that's all
yeah,
right too.
yeah, completely.
Yeah,
I would encourage you to do it while you're here, though. Well, the thing is,
absolutely.
you will keep being sent back. We'll keep coming back into this lifetime. We'll keep coming back to Earth until we have our mission complete. So it's up to us. We'll keep getting sent back. So that's how it works.
Wow. Wow. And I love that. Like, so is that kind of like when you're talking about like this is we're in this world as in this body,
Yeah,
but our spirit will come back time and time again until we live up to our whatever purpose we're sent here for.
exactly. Yeah, we will keep being sent back until our mission is complete. So, the world's evolving. Like like if you look back even, 50 years ago, it's a completely different world. Our world is constantly evolving. We keep coming back to help that evolution and help all of that to occur. But, some of us come back and we're coming back we're coming into this human body. We don't remember, why we're here. We come back into this human body, and then we develop all these people around us put we've got the beliefs and we've got the traumas and all the other pieces, and it takes us a while to start waking up again. Now there's a mass awakening, like the whole world. There's huge, like nothing. The world has never been waking up
Yeah.
like it is now, and it's rapid. People are having their awakenings much faster. They're going through trauma like really quick, and overcoming trauma and like getting through that really fast in order for this evolution. So, but if we don't so we've come here on a soul contract. We've made a contract to come here. But when it's up to us then when we come here, whether we do it or not. And there's never been a point in time where there isn't as much support around us to do that, in the likes of, coaches, spiritual work,
Yeah.
the healers, like there's healers
Yeah.
everywhere now. Um,
Yeah.
we're we're all joining, to do the work together.
Wow.
So yeah, it's up to you. And each one of us has a gift, and we have something to bring that it is to help. It's all about heart. It's all about love. Love is the highest frequency, and it's all to do with unconditional love. So we all have that. But we gotta see it in ourselves first before we
Yeah, I was
can
going
put
to
it
say.
out. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think we're, and especially as mothers, we're like this naturally, we're just nurturers. So we love everyone. We love, we look after everyone. We look after
yeah,
everyone in the house, the dog, the cat,
yeah,
like everyone. But
absolutely.
unfortunately, an awful lot of times we don't show ourselves that same love. And that's where
Yeah.
I think that's where it starts. That's the first step to anything is that love for yourself.
Completely. 100%. It's one of the
Wow.
first things you've got to start doing is um like all that what you're putting out, you got to turn it like a boomerang and you got to send it back in. It has to come in, and you've got to see it and believe it. And as I said earlier on, it's a vulnerable place. It's vulnerable, and that's where healing starts,
Yeah.
and it's not an easy place. There's like emotion there, and you get to like release so much. I love crying now. I'm like, oh yes, there's SH1T leaving.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Sometimes I watch like I'm a devil for watching like people reunite and stuff like that, and I'd be like, oh, and I just literally
Yeah,
I know what I'm doing. I know I'm watching it because I need this release, and then I'd have a little cry, and then
yeah,
I'm like, okay, I'm good, and then I'm like, right, let's go. I'm going. I'm good. So sometimes you do need that. It's okay to have that cry and have that release.
completely. Yeah, yeah, completely. Yeah,
Brilliant. Well, Edwina, I mean, I have about 20 questions that I'd love to ask you, but I'm not going to ask you now because I'm conscious that, to not keep you on all
yeah,
night. And I'm not even sure how long we've been on, but I might actually have you on again because I'm
that would
really
be amazing.
interested in I'm really interested in the world of trauma and stuff like that, but it's definitely something that we could get into in depthly another time. But there's lots of things. I no, actually, I'm going to have you on again, Edwina, because I'd
Yeah,
keep you here all night. But thank you so much for sharing your story.
you're
And
so
thank you
welcome.
so much for telling us everything and being so honest and like refreshingly honest. I really, really appreciate it.
Not at all. You're so welcome, Antoinette. And thank you everybody for watching. And if a snippet of inspiration has been shared, then that's enough.
And can you just before you go, can you just tell everybody how they can follow you or what your what your offerings are and just a little bit about yourself just before you go, how people can find you and everything.
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm more active really on Instagram.
Okay.
And maybe underneath this live, I'll tag, or maybe Antoinette,
I'll
you can
tag you.
tag me in it. And I know you've tagged me in stories today, and I was sharing them out as well. So it's Aurora Healing and Coaching, and my offerings. I am a bioenergy therapist and a Dawson Corrective Sounds practitioner, and I am a spiritual coach. So I have two different offerings within that. So I do coach people through trauma to help them to go from where they were into where they want to go. But I have a brand new offering that isn't out there just yet. But if you
Oh, it's an
watch my
exclusive,
page, so
folks.
it's about to be launched in the next
Wow,
few days. So
amazing.
keep an eye on my page. It's a brand new offering. I'm working on that at the moment. It's exciting and it's all of that.
Fantastic.
So yeah, you'll see
Great.
all the info as well over on the page.
Okay, so look, absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Me
Like I
too.
said,
Thank you, Anthony.
I'd sit here and yap away all night. But it was really, really a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
sharing your story.
Thank you so
And
much.
good luck with your new offering. I'll be keeping an eye on the page to hear how it goes. And I will send, I'll pop this up. So if you haven't had a chance, everybody can catch up. I'll pop this on our pages. So thank you so much. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everybody who tuned in. Have a lovely evening.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.